Welcome to another episode of the Voice Break Podcast. This is episode 6, and my guest here, Kelson Hayes, is a wizard of, well, he's a wizard. I mean, just look at him. But this guy could wipe down your Windows as fast as he could type up a few 100,000 words, and he's actually an award-winning author. Kelson, you want to tell us about that?
Oh yeah, thank you. And yeah, so about 2 years ago, I think it was, there was a contest on Vocal Plus, like a social media platform where you get paid per reading that. So saw this contest. I was selling my book on the streets, The Art of Not Thinking. So I was doing it, homeless thing, no job, no apartment, just living on the streets, selling the book to prove its truth. And saw this contest, so I just took an excerpt from a unpublished book now, but at the time it was published. So took the excerpt from like 3 or 4 chapters, submitted it, and then just let it sit. Didn't think about it in that sense. And yeah, it was one of 25 winning submissions because it was like 25 winners get $5,000, and then they'll put it into the anthology and that.
Wow,
Yeah, so I won
wow,
the Vocal Plus Fiction Awards.
that's beautiful. So this was actually a pretty big deal for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like because me and my wife we just started talking, so we were dating online, and she was saying, yeah, you can we can be together. Like if you want to move here to the Philippines, it's just we'll need to save up the money. So it's like need to save up 10K, and I got a job writing for the Chinese, doing English as a second language, and I made like about $5,000 from that, and then I made about 5,000 from the book sales, but that was mostly going to living expenses. So then the 5,000 I won from the contest, it's like, wow, I can actually afford to move now. And now I'm
Wow,
living in the Philippines, happily married.
beautiful,
Oh, thank
beautiful.
you.
So yeah, and congratulations. It's this a really interesting success story. The way things have panned out. So you said you were homeless at the time of winning the contest. Is that right?
Yeah, well, technically I was. I'd actually just started working for my friend. I was buying weed from him at the time because I smoked in America, and he was like, "Well, you grew 2,500 plants in South Carolina, so you got an idea of the business and that. So how about you live with me? You grow for me. I'll give you food, housing, whatever you need. Consider it like employment." So it's like, well, yeah, but I'm trying to sell my books on the streets and be homeless to show people that they can do anything. He's like, well, isn't it doing anything if someone just offers you a random opportunity? And it's like, yeah, that does make sense. I'll do that then. So,
That's really interesting. So I want to get back over to the chronology of kind of closer to present day, but it's really interesting to see and hear how things developed and how you came to acquire your philosophy that you packaged into this book, The Art of Not Thinking.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really like a lifetime of philosophy on a level because, like, I mean, growing up, I went to Christian church. I was raised, well, I was born Catholic, baptized in Catholic church, raised in a Baptist church, and then that kind of put me to more of my religious philosophies because it's like being baptized in Catholic church and going to my grandmother's Baptist church. It's like, well, Catholics they're wrong about God. They worship idols and blah blah blah, and then Muslims are wrong. And then it's like, well, I was born Catholic, and you guys talk about the same God. So I mean, God is God. And then kind of pushed me more towards atheism at one point. Started reading about Friedrich Nietzsche and got into nihilism, and then from nihilism, I mean, everybody always says it's negative, but then I feel like it's a positive because, I mean, if nothing is real, so nothing matters, that means everything is possible because we exist. So then just the life that I lived kind of really pushed that mentality where it's like, in the book, I made a joke where it's like, everyone's an opportunity. Like, you can meet anyone, do anything. Like, so, hey, go talk to that crackhead in the back alley, smoke some crack, have a fun time. Like, you never know where you're going to end up. And it's not like literally smoke crack, but I mean, it's like, you don't know where that's going to take you. I mean, there's places that could take you that you don't want to be, and then there's places that could take you that you do want to be. Like, I met my boss at the window washing company that we were talking about earlier. I met him through a nightclub. I was just going there with a girl that I met on Tinder, and then ended up talking to him the whole night. She walked off like bad date, but I mean, really great opportunity. And then ended up washing windows for 2 years, and then from that, quit the job, went to another company, and it's like, wow, this taught me an incredible skill, and went from that to quit my job, became homeless, and then it's like, well, now you're on the bottom again. What are you going to do? Well, that's like the book says. It's like, what are you going to do? How are you going to eat? Where are you going to sleep? Those are stupid questions because, I mean, at the end of the day, the answer is there. Like, I'll sleep on the sidewalk. I'll eat whatever this guy just gave me coming out the store. He gave me a bag of chips. Like, hey, that's what I'm going to eat. What are you going to do? Well, I'm doing it. Like, it's happening all around me right now. And I mean, a lot of my mates were like, you can't live like that. You can't do that. And it's like, I did it. Now I'm in the Philippines. And it's like, how are you just married, living in the Philippines, happy and stuff? Well, I mean, I did what the book said. I just didn't care. I didn't think about it. I just did what I wanted to do, and it just all lined up in my favor because I wasn't worried. Like, well, what if you starve to death on the streets? Okay, I won't be homeless, and then don't be homeless, then don't sell books, and end up living this bum life working at a McDonald's, and it's not bad either. I mean, you could be happy cleaning toilets, or you could be miserable cleaning toilets. It's what your mentality is, and that's also in the books. I mean, it's like just all that stuff in life. It just led me to that. Like at one point when I was 18, I got semi kidnapped. Like the dude told me he's my dad's friend. Said he'd get me on my feet in Liverpool, so I end up in Liverpool, and then turns out he's trying to groom me, and it's like not a very favorable situation, like a semi brothel. But I mean, so it's like I could let that define the rest of my life too. Like, oh, I almost got molested, and now I can no longer trust men anymore. But I mean, that was just a bad opportunity. And I mean, I still go with strangers. I still talk to people. I still meet people every day. And I mean, it doesn't have to stop you. Like, my mom always told me don't get in the car with strangers. And I would do that a lot. Like, people would offer me a ride, so I'd get in. 2 or 3 times I had to jump out of the car, like, while I was driving down the road, literally roll out because it's a bad guy. Like, one time, I mean, I got lucky they never child locked it, but it's like one time some dude told me he was going to take me back to the hotel and got on into this conversation I didn't want to be in. So it's like, look, you just passed the Walmart that he said he was going to drive me to. Yeah, no, it's okay. We're going to go to my hotel and have some drinks. I jumped out of the car. It's like, I'm not doing that. But then other people offer me a ride that I don't know. I mean, it's like, am I going to say every single person's like that? I don't even know. Like, I mean, everybody's different. Like, you don't know who you're going to meet. Like, I could have said, I'm not going to talk to you because I've been scammed online before. You might be a scammer. I don't. You're going to try and steal my identity through this podcast. And it's like, man, you say no to that, and it's like you just lost an opportunity.
Interesting. So to reflect on what you're saying over the past bit of story, you got into Friedrich Nietzsche and basically nihilism, and kind of tackled the idea that people have of how when you get to a nihilistic perspective, it's like, oh no, now everything like nothing matters, but that makes me sad or something like that. To the generally, like that's how it's seen. And I wanted to add there that I've thought about that a lot as well. And people say that, and it's interesting because the people who oftentimes are most diehard nihilist are the most depressed.
Mm-hmm.
But if nothing matters, then how can you be upset about it? It's new to you,
Exactly.
right? Like it's not like
Yeah,
it's well, it's
it's
contradictory.
it really is because I mean, so many people will say like, "Oh, nothing matters, so why should I get a girlfriend? Nothing matters, so why would I eat ice cream? Nothing matters, so like I should just kill myself." And it's like that's literally the opposite of like nihilism, in my personal opinion. That's why I had to twist the nihilism to the art of not thinking. Because it's like, if nothing matters, then you losing your job doesn't matter. What are you going to do? It doesn't matter. Something else is going to happen. Like, are you going to die now? Like, were you on life support and it was plugged into that job? No. I mean, I got fired just now. Oh, well, that sucks. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so what are you going to do now? I don't know. I'll do something. And then it's like, well, what are your dreams? I mean, if you ask a nihilist person, I mean, what are your dreams? Some of them might have an actual dream. Some of them might just say, oh, it doesn't matter. And if they say it doesn't matter, that's when you've met a depressive nihilist, because it's like, just because nothing matters doesn't mean that everything has to be miserable. Like, if nothing matters, then that means that the things that you don't like don't matter. The things that you do like are the reason you're tethered to this earth right now. Like, why don't I kill myself? Well, because I really want to write books. I've got my wife and daughter inside. Like, I enjoy lumpia a lot. I love arroz con pollo. I love tilapia. I love tinola. I love asado. Like, or adobo, my bad. But yeah, no, there's so many good things in life. Like, a lot of good in life. And I mean, people that appreciate it, they're happier than the people where it's like, I don't eat ice cream because that's for children. Like, I mean, who gives a shit? Like, eat the mint chocolate chip. I don't like mint chocolate chip. Well, then get fucking strawberry. Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. But
Oh man, yeah, that's just really interesting. So something that I see in in the people that I talk to and I interview, and even from my own experience now personally, is like the the ultra burdened mentality of like, what are you gonna do, and all the worrying, all this and that. Not only does it keep you from opportunity, but it keeps you from capitalizing on opportunity. When
yeah,
you're crushing yourself with worry, hell, maybe you do take an opportunity, but you're in no state to actually succeed
yeah,
by being constantly burdened with that. So the art of not thinking, I would say, in a way, it's the art of openness.
yeah. It's like let go of the things that hold you back and just open yourself to opportunities. Pretty much. Like, I mean, one of my favorite key points of the book is literally like exactly as we just described. Like, I mean, no matter what happens, you still exist, and so as long as you breathe and you live, you've got opportunities ahead of you. You've got a life that you can live. And one line in particular, it's like, so let's say you got nothing, you've got no one, you're completely down on your luck, you're alone, poor, hungry, everything, right? Like, just the worst situation you could be in. So, I mean, what stops you from walking into a Walmart or like Costco or whatever, like any store nearby you? Like, just walk in, take a sandwich off the shelf and eat it. Just eat it out the wrapper. Don't even pay for it. What, I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to arrest you, put you in jail. Now you got free food and housing for the rest of your life and you're surrounded by people. So, I mean, if you're really that down on your luck, I mean, just steal a sandwich. Who cares? And then if you're not so down on your luck, you want to take that risk. It's because you've got stuff that you don't want to lose, and that's the stuff that you're not appreciating. Like, I don't want to go to prison because then I can't walk around and do whatever I want. Well, that's something that you can do, and you just took it for granted because you're saying that, like, I might as well kill myself. Like, no, just go steal a sandwich if you're that suicidal. Like, I mean, you're never at the bottom. Like, I mean, some dude, I was just in Facebook a little bit ago, and he told me that stoicism works when you're not a slave. And I mean, to a degree, that's true, but I mean, at the same time, let's say you're a slave. Well, what stops you? Like, you can fight for your life. You can die to be free, and then maybe they kill you, but then you were a slave. So what did you lose? Just your life, and that wasn't really valuable if you were so destitute in slavery and that. But let's say you break free. Now you can run anywhere you want. You can beat anyone you want. You can do anything. Like, I mean, you look at Martin Luther King. He died for his ideals. He's free. The world's a better place. Rosa Parks, she sat down on that bus, refused to get up because it's what she wanted to do. She didn't want to settle, so she did what she wanted, didn't care about the consequences, and look at the world today. I mean, if she never did that, I mean, people would still be sitting in the back of the bus, like, still be sitting in the front of the bus, and they'd still be regulated to wherever they sit. But I mean, all these people, they acted without thinking because they knew that what they wanted was bigger than the things holding them back, and those barriers, they're thoughts. It's not like you're chained in this spot and you can't do anything. You can't get up. You can get up. You can move. Like, I saw a woman fall on her face when I was leaving the nightclub at like 2, 3 in the morning back in Liverpool. A couple dudes, like, they were talking about what they're going to do to her, talking about taking her into an alleyway and that. I could have kept walking because it's none of my business. I didn't have to do anything. I could have just ignored it. But what I did is I called out to them. I was like, "Yo, is that your friend?" They're like, "Yeah, it's none of your business." So I just rang up 999, the emergency services, and I called the police on them. I mean, that's something you can do. I'm not powerless. Like, yeah, okay, I can't fight these two guys. They're going to jump me. Do I want to get attacked? No, but there's always another option. There's always things that people don't see, like people don't think, and doing something is still better than doing nothing. Like, the book, a couple people think that the book means like don't do anything because nothing matters. And that's the same thing with nihilism. It's like you're taking it into a depressive, like it's not the message. The message is so much better than that. You're locked by the words that you've read and you're not looking between the lines in a sense.
Yeah.
But,
No, that's really powerful, and my eyes raised when you said that the barriers are just thought.
I mean, yeah, because I mean that's what they are. I mean, it's like, let's say you tell me I have to eat ice cream with you. Now, I feel like I have no choice, but that's just a thought. Like, you didn't put a gun to my head. And even if you put a gun to my head, you haven't forced my hand to eat the ice cream. You just got a gun to my head. I could easily die over this if I didn't want to eat it that bad. It's like, you know what? Pull the trigger. I'm not eating the ice cream. But most people feel like they don't have that that freedom, so they think like, oh well, this advertiser walked up to me and said, hey, you should try this free sample, and then so I did, and then they said that it's 50% off, and they kept telling me to get it, so I had no choice. I had to buy it. No, you had a choice the whole time. You could have told them no. Yeah, I just didn't want to feel bad, but that's a thought. Like nothing in this life, like it's like a play. It's not like a movie. Like a movie, you watch it, you've got no control. But a play, you're the actor. You've got full control over yourself. You could follow the script, or you could go off the script. But at the end of the day, the choice lies with you.
That's beautiful.
Well, thank you.
I just have to think about that for a second.
Yeah, like I mean, I definitely try to be like motivating and inspiring to people, and I mean, it's always really nice when someone reaches out, like, "Yo, your book changed my life," or like, "Yo, I took inspiration from you, like you motivated me to do this thing that I've always wanted to do." It's like, wow, cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. It sounds like that happens a lot.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like a lot, but I wouldn't say it's like a little bit either. Like, I had a mate recently tell me that he actually decided to start writing a fantasy series of his own, and that I inspired him from always posting about my books and talking about it and trying to uplift people to chase their dreams and stuff. And it's like, wow, that's really cool. And before that, I'd had a review on my Art of Not Thinking book again, and I think got like 7 of those on Amazon, and then I had a handful of people when I was on the streets selling it, and they'd come up to me and they'd see me still on the streets, like, oh, you're still here at this spot? No, I just came back. It's been like 2 weeks since I left, so figured I'd come back here and try and sell it some more. And then it's like, wow, yeah, your book changed my life. I wasn't sure if I'd ever see you again. It's like, oh, cool, thanks.
That's awesome. Wow. So it really is. It's funny. I didn't expect this to come full circle, but it's like what stops you is thought. So the art of not thinking is just removing that.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I mean, it sounds like I never think myself, and like I'm always free from it because I wrote the book. But then, I mean, my wife jokes with me at the same time because she's like, you know, you think a lot for someone that wrote a book about it, and it's like, yeah, babe, but the book is as much a guide to me as the people that read it. Like, I partly wrote it to myself as a reminder of like, hey, when you feel stupid, like you can't do this, you can't do that, you wrote this to yourself, so follow it. And then I do, and then at the same time, other people read it, and it's like he wrote this for me, and it's like, I mean, yeah, it's for anyone that opens it, really. Even me, like, yeah, I wrote it. It doesn't mean that I live by it every single day. There's times where I'm like, oh fuck, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, and oh my god, I'm stressed out. Like when I was driving up to the house turnover for me and my wife, we were. I told her if we pick up the car at 7, it's not going to be ready till 8:30, and then we're going to be late getting to the thing. She's like, well, this is the only time slot that they've got. Da 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 da. Like the car place isn't open before that, and that we can't change the arrival time. So it's like, okay, well, I don't know what we're going to do. And I ended up thinking too much, and we got into a little fender bender. It wasn't a big deal. It was just the dude ahead of me, someone cut him off. He had to slam on his brakes. The dude behind him slammed on his brakes, and then that led me to bump the guy in front of me. And then it's like, oh my god, the front end is like dented now, and this is a rental car. Like we're gonna have to pay that. Oh no, what do we do? And all these thoughts kept coming out of nowhere about it. And then really, if I had to follow the book from the very beginning, on the one hand, I wouldn't care about when we get there. On the other hand, when the car gets dented, it's like, I mean, it is what it is. Like, can't change the past. But then reality happened, and I was stressed out a bit. And ends up, my dad-in-law, he's got the guy that can fix it. He paid for it, so I mean, we're really grateful to him. So that nullifies the thoughts there. And then at the same time, we were 30 minutes late because of the fucking accident and that. So it's like, even trying to push it to get there on time was completely useless because even if we were 30 minutes late like we were, we still got to do the thing. So it's like the book rubbed it in my face that I didn't follow it. It's like, yeah, he thought a lot, man. And look, see, you didn't have to think about anything.
Well,
Even when I messed up, it's like, still, I mean, it all ends up exactly as it does, and everything was fine. I mean, there's plenty of situations like that with people. Like when you get fired from a job, it's like, what am I going to do now? I'm never going to be able to make money again. And then, wow, you just randomly got a job 2 weeks later, like, and you're already jumping on board. Like, take a week off and enjoy yourself. Like, you just stressed for 2 weeks. Like, when can you start? Right now? Nah, start a week later, man. Like, unless your rent's due, like, I mean, start a week later, enjoy your holiday. Like, the book even says, like, if you don't have a job right now, you don't got an income, then take that time to do stuff you love. Take that time to see people you love, because you don't always have that time, but you'll always have that job. I mean,
yeah.
it's easier to give advice than to actually follow it for real.
Yeah, that's for sure. But it's a wonderful guideline.
Oh, definitely. I
And
mean, it helps me too. So, I mean, the people it's helped, it's like, yeah, me too. I just can't
yeah.
flatter myself like that. Like, wow, my book changed my life so much. That'd be
Yeah.
terrible. It's too narcissistic.
Yeah. No, I understand that. But it's true. Oftentimes the advice that we give is knowing that we're probably going to encounter the same problems again at some point, right?
And I suppose that goes back to philosophy too, because I feel like sometimes, not just me, but I mean, even hearing advice from other people sometimes has given me the thought where it's like, I feel like when we give someone advice, it's the advice that we want to take ourselves, that it's kind of like a two-pronged, like I'm giving you advice, but I'm also speaking it aloud to give it to myself.
I do that a lot.
Yeah, same
And
here.
I
I
don't
feel
get
like it's a common thing.
sorry, I was speaking over you. Say again?
I was saying like I do it too. I feel like it's like a common thing with like a lot of people. I feel like some people might not even realize they're doing it.
Yeah. It definitely is extremely common. And well, I think of I think of people who are like quote unquote people pleasers who can see other people who are like in their shoes and they'll give great advice and have not taken it themselves.
Yeah,
Now, I'm not saying that that's always the case, but it's a very common thing.
definitely. And then I mean, it's also very hard to tell people no at times because like you don't want to let the people around you down. Like you always want people to be happy and stuff. I feel like a lot of people are like that as well.
Yeah, it's the consequences that we bear. We're like, if I do this, then it's my fault. Sometimes we feel what happens after, where it's a little more than just you. Like you are responsible, but it's a psychologically there's a cost, a risk reward circuitry going on there, and you have to be willing to take the risk. So when when you see your biggest successes, it's probably that you took the risk and you were willing to be wrong about it. And I can say the same for myself. Would you agree?
I definitely like. I feel like when they say the risk, the greater the risk, the greater reward. I feel like that's absolutely true. Because I mean, every time I've done something that played out really well for me, like I mean, even now living here in the Philippines, like I've always had people tell me, but what if you shouldn't do that? Think about the consequences and all these things. Like, I had mates telling me, like, well, you've never even met her in real life. How do you know it's not like a scam? How do you know she's real? And it's like, I mean, there's no real way of knowing one way or the other. I mean, even if you know the person in real life, you don't know that it's going to end well. Like, I've had ex-fiancés that I've known in person. I've had people I've known in person my whole life that ended up, for lack of a better word, fucking me over. And I mean, it's like, so you never know, but the risks that you take, they can be some of the greatest rewards. Like when I moved back to England, I mean, I ended up in that bad situation that I mentioned, but I mean, at the same time, I got a job at an international charity and I made countless friends there. I had a good time. I mean, it was great being back home. And then when that turned around, I ended up moving to South Carolina with my first ex-fiance. And I mean, everybody thought it was a good idea. That probably should have been a sign to me of like, hey, don't do it. It's too supported. Like, this is the moment you should say no. But I mean, it wasn't even bad. I mean, it was still a good time too. I mean, it was good experiences, met lots of cool people, and I mean, moving to South Carolina is what gave me the cannabis experience to work for my weed man in Virginia. So I mean, every single bad moment has its good key points that you can take away from it, even. But if you don't do something, you'll always regret it. Like if I never moved back to England, I'd still want to move back today because I wouldn't know what it's like. And then anything, I mean, anything I've done, it's like, well, if I didn't do it, then that's why I'm not happy now. It's because I didn't do this thing, because I didn't do that thing. Like I could be here, but instead I'm here, and I'm not happy here. I would have been happier there. And then actually doing it, it's like, well, doing that made me miserable. Like there was some good to it, but there was a lot of bad to it. And then it's like, well, even when you look at the lot of bad, I mean, that's in the present. Then you get to the past, and it's like, that really sucked, but at least it did this, this, and this for me in the long run, the bigger picture. So I mean, it wasn't fun at the time, but it was good for me in my development in that. I mean, I feel like that's something that if people look at it like that, I mean, it's a lot healthier and it's a lot more productive to your life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would definitely agree. I think it's it's funny how many choices you can make that really don't that really aren't as like disastrous, the results of what you do. If you make a decisive choice, what carries you forward is the decisiveness. That's like the confidence to willing to be wrong. It leaves
absolutely.
you more open to success.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as you don't give up, anything is possible. And I say that a lot, but I mean, it's really down to what you said. It's the decisiveness of it. Because I mean, if I wanted to be an author, which is what I wanted to do, I had to suffer through people not buying my books, through people telling me that it's a stupid dream, people telling me I'm never going to finish my books, that this has already been written, that's already been written, you're not doing anything new. Like, authors don't make a lot of money. Like, there's so many authors out there. Like, why would you even do it? Like, there's over 1 billion books in the world. Why do you think people buy yours? And it's like, you know what? Yeah, I won't do it. I'll give up. Or I'll do it. And it's like, no, no, I'm not going to listen to you lot. And then after a year, it's like, well, I made 3 book sales this year, so I'm not going to do it again. And then that's it. You just have 3 sales. Maybe it'll pick up in the future when you're dead, but you gave up, so it'll never go anywhere. Whereas with me, it's like, I've been published for like 10 years almost. My first series, I unpublished them. My wife read it. I republished the first 3, and I'm working towards finishing the whole series as a whole. The reason I unpublished it is because I realized when I published them originally, they weren't the quality that I wanted them to be. And I've also tried to target non-readers because it's like, well, nobody wants to read 200,000 words today, so I'm going to write 80,000 words. I'm going to condense it, simplify it, so that people that don't like reading can get into it. They didn't. So now I write it the way I want it to, and the people that find an interest in it, it's like, wow, I really want to read it. Yeah, me too. Like, I really want to write this. So, I mean, even if people don't read it, even if they just say they want to, even if they just say, oh, I'm not interested in fantasy, I don't like sci fi, I don't like this, I don't like that, that's cool. I'm not writing it for you. not you in particular. I'm writing it for myself, for my wife, and for people that are fans of this genre and stuff. And then, I mean, if I don't make money from it right now, I mean, that's cool. Like, J.K. Rowling didn't become big until she was like 40 or something. And then even if I die, it's left behind. It's my legacy. And I mean, I'm proud of it. It's like, I mean, leaving it behind, it's like maybe nobody read it, but at the same time, if someone ever does pick it up, they'll see the love, the dedication that went into it. And then, I mean, that's what people would remember from it. Whereas if I give up, then I mean, it's just a nothing. Like, I mean, even if you make music, if you do it for other people and they tell you, I don't like the way it sounds, then you're going to give up. But if you don't give up, you keep doing it and you love it, then the people that are attracted to it, they'll love it all the more because it's exactly what you wanted to do.
I agree 100%. That's the art of, like, I should say that's the heart of really what makes someone want to digest more of a certain content to begin with. Nobody really likes fake,
Yeah,
and a compromise on your creative part for the audience sake is a compromise on the exact energy that gives it life.
exactly. I mean, because it's like I've seen a handful of authors, and I hate saying this to anyone, so I never comment on the post, but I've seen a handful of authors on author groups, and it's like I want to write a book, but I don't know what to write about, and it's like, why do you want to write a book? And I see that comment on them sometimes, and they want to make money, they want to become famous, they want people to read their books, and it's like, of all the things you could do, there's probably something you can do that people will actually want to buy into that could bring you success. But for you to want to do it for the success, you don't even know what you want to do. You just know that you want to be successful. And that, to me, that's like a sign that you don't know what you want to do. Like, the issue is not the writing of the books. 'Cause, I mean, if you wanted to be an author, you wanted to write books, you got a general idea of what you want to do. Like, I read Lord of the Rings when I was like in elementary school. That was like the foundation of my reading. Like I started with Lord of the Rings. I went to Tom Clancy. I read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Every book that thick that I could find in the library, I picked it up because it's like I just couldn't get enough of books. And then so at some point I realized all of these stories are like a window into a world. I want to write a door. Like the Elder Scrolls video games, for example, you play Elder Scrolls Oblivion, you're in the third era. You play Elder Scrolls Morrowind, you're in the third era. You play Elder Scrolls Skyrim, you're in the fourth era. And they're in different regions of the continent. But then it brings these questions like, well, what about their present day? What about their future? What about the other continents on their world? You don't really get to see any of that because I mean that's not been created yet in the game. And I mean it may never be created in the game because they're focused on Tamriel. So with my books, it's like Lord of the Rings. Like what happened after they killed Sauron? Surely like Gondor and Rohan, maybe they fought a war later after that. So with my books, I wanna solve all those questions for a fantasy series. So it's like my books, I've got four continents. I've got five eras. The first era is like the Dark Ages, medieval. Second era is like imperialism. You got muskets. They've developed firepower. The third era is the Great War. So it's like all the continents they've been discovered. Parts of them have been colonized. Parts of the continents have become superpowers of their own right, and they all launched into this full-scale war, kind of like World War One up to the Cold War or Vietnam type stuff. So after the Great War, then it goes into the modern age, the fourth era. At the end of the fourth era, there's a nuclear apocalypse, like global catastrophe on their world, so they go into space. And then from there, the book series is set to end where it's like you've got alien factions. They reveal like humans are a plague. We wiped out the whole galaxy that you contain because you tried to expand and colonize all of it. So we destroyed you, condensed your DNA to a rock, launched it at a primitive planet to give you a second chance, and you've done it again. So we're going to wipe out your galaxy. humans create a Big Bang device, and it's like, well, if you destroy our galaxy, we're going to destroy the whole universe. So it leads up to the end of the series is going to be they press the button, the whole universe implodes on itself, and it creates a new universe, and then the series ends on that note. Is it that universe repeated again? Is it our universe? Is it the universe after ours when we do that? Like, who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, you've seen the whole span of their universe, so there's nothing left to ask. Not, well, were there more continents on their world? What about more galaxies? What about more solar systems? Like, what happens at the end? Well, at the end is the beginning. So it comes full circle. Like, there's no more questions. And then, I mean, and then I might do it where if my family, like if my children or my grandchildren, any of that, if they're interested in carrying it on, I might just do what Tolkien did and pass down the rights. Like if you want to write an offshoot series, like okay, I focus on these main events. Maybe there's other events that are referenced, or maybe you want to create events that run alongside it. Maybe you want to do a side path for a character. You can publish it into the world. I'll give you the rights. But I mean, ultimately, it's not like there's too much to question at that point. So that's what I want to do personally. But then for another author, they might have their own ideas. But if you've got that dedication, that knowledge of what you want to do, that's a passion. And if you don't have that kind of passion, then I mean, maybe you just need to find it, or maybe you're just not doing it for the passion, and that's what you need to look at. Because I mean, it could be that you have another passion. Like I got one mate doesn't know what he wants to do, but I mean, he's got interests, so it's like trying to convince him, like, well, maybe you don't know what you want to do. Like, you don't want to be a musician, you don't want to be an author, you don't want to do arts and that. But maybe you like video games, maybe you like clothes, like fashion designing. Like, you got passion. It's just you got to find what your passion is that draws you. And I mean, I feel like that's with anyone that doesn't know what they want to do. It's like you just got to figure out what is it that you love doing. Like, why do you work so hard? Because you want to collect this thing, because you want to do this thing. So that's your passion. Find a way to make it your thing. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, your thing could be
So it
anything,
tends
but I
to be
mean,
very specific.
oh, what's it?
I looks like we had a little lag. I think I cut you off a bit. Say again.
I was saying, like, for people, like, when they don't know what they want to do, it's like you got to look at your passion. Like, my stepdad's a perfect example. Like, he works, saves up his money, he does the whole adult thing, and so he saves up his money to build race cars, drag racing. That's his passion. So I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean that's what he wants to do. Like someone might not know what they want to do, but then it's like, well, you work for what? Like, why do you have a job? It's not just to exist. You've got something that brings you passion, that brings you joy in life. Like maybe you like Nike shoes, maybe you like video games, maybe you like watching films, eating food. That's your passion. You just got if you want to find a way, you just got to find a way to incorporate it into something that you're doing. Like maybe you want to be a script writer, maybe you want to be a chef, like maybe you want to be a fashion designer, maybe you just want to be a model. Like I mean, anything. You don't have to be like an artist. You don't have to be like a rich person to be happy. But I mean, if you don't know what is missing from your life and you're trying to find it, I mean, just that's your passion. Like, just look in.
That's really interesting. We're gonna bring it full circle with this. So it comes back to the art of not thinking. And in my experience, what people pay me oftentimes to help them solve specific voice problems,
Yeah,
but I know that specific problems are not the problem, right? And it's like what you're saying, like the people, the authors who go and say, I want to write a book, but I don't know what I want to write about. And it's like, well, why do you want to write? Well, I want to be successful in this and that. So it's like, so is it really that you want to write, or do you want to be successful? For a
yeah,
lot of people, is it really that you want to sing, or do you want the success that you imagine, like you see at the top?
yeah,
I think in my experience, it comes down to what part of the singing or the writing or the art, aside from people, actually brings you fulfillment. And
Exactly.
and people don't look at that. So from your from your guidebook, from your way of thinking, what would you say to that person who who's looking all places except for the one place that matters?
It's so I mean, if you want to be successful and you want to be rich or you want to be famous, I feel like the biggest question for that that could help you find what it is that you're actually looking for is why do you want it? Like you want to be rich. Why? Because you want to buy because you want to buy this thing. Like let's say you want to buy race cars. Well then you don't want to be rich. What you want is to build race cars. You want to drive race cars. You want to race. Like you don't have to be Colin McRae or Lewis Hamilton to race a car. You could literally buy a junk car for 500 quid, build it up, and then go to a local track. And then that you'll meet people in the car meets. You want to be famous and successful because you want to meet people. You want people to love you. You want to have a crowd around you. Well, I mean, find a like-minded crowd. In the race car sense, you meet people at these car shows, and then you befriend car people. Or it's maybe not cars. Maybe you want to buy fashion bags, designer clothes, and that. Well, then it's because you like fashion. Maybe you could become a fashion designer, or maybe you just like having clothes like that. So you don't need to be rich to do that. Like you can make your own. You can figure out the ins and outs of how to make it yourself. Or if you just like collecting like Louis Vuitton in particular or Gucci, whatever, just stack that. Like build it. Like build the collection. Like you don't need to be rich to have the collection. I mean, some clothes are really expensive, yeah. So I mean, once again, it might be beneficial for you to learn the ins and the outs of making it, and then you could actually make money from that. Because then if you've got fashion taste that people like, they'll probably want to buy your clothes. I mean, let's say you just like video games. I mean, there's plenty of Twitch streamers out there now that are like literally making money off of just playing video games, just doing what they love. And so, I mean, it's like fame, success, money, these things are not things that we want. They're a result of monetizing or making popular the things that we love. Like, no one loves money, they love the things that money gives them. So, same thing with fame and same thing with popularity. It's like, what is it that you want from that? Like, because surely there's an outcome. Like, I mean, even with just if you like being around people and you want more people in your life, like, you could become a public speaker, you could motivate people, you could, I don't know, I mean, you could do comedy, you could become a comedian. And you don't have to be rich to do that. You don't have to be a successful one to do that. There's local venues, you can do all these things. Like, a handful of people that I've told growing up, like that I'm an author when I first got published, they thought like, oh wow, no way, you're a published author now. Like you always said you wanted to do that. I didn't know. Like, wow, you're like talking like you're rich and famous. No, I mean people don't really read my books. No, I'm struggling. I'm struggling. I'm a bum. It's just you can self-publish books. I can literally take the letter A and spam it across the keyboard until I've got 300 pages with the letter A, just A, whole way through, and I could publish that. Like anyone can do it. It's not a special like oh my god you've been chosen. No, I'm an author. I mean it doesn't mean anything. You're a janitor. It doesn't mean anything. Like I wrote a book. Big deal. Yeah, well I could never write a book. Well then yeah, I mean I did something that you couldn't do, but then there's plenty of stuff you can do that I can't do. I don't know how to fucking build a car from ground up. I don't know how to sew bags. I don't know how to do any of these types of things. Like I can wash windows. Yes, I mean, it's not about the fame, it's not about the money, it's not about the success. The success is the feeling of gratification that doing what you love gives you. I feel like that's the best advice that I could really give with that.
I think that's great advice. And
Oh,
the the image that I got is that people are here at this place, like point A, right?
yeah,
Truly, they want point B, but they've denied it, and they've denied the possibility so often, so much and start to believe that it's really just not possible until they can get through this barrier of like money, fame, any just rudimentary thing that's not really what they want. But then they start to question, like, you know, well, they can't see past it. They're like, yeah,
Yeah,
I just want money, and they forget the reason why.
exactly. And I mean, I like the way you said like point A to point B, but the only thing I might add to that is I feel like you're absolutely on the spot with that. But for me personally, I feel like it's like they want to be at point C, they're at point A, and they don't want to go through the point B bit. They just want to skip it, and it's like you can't get to
That's
C
true.
without going through B.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. To a degree, you even could skip B. It's just that's where money comes in. And I mean, in the art of not thinking, I wrote a chapter. I think it's chapter 4 or chapter 5. It's called "Fuck You, Money." And I mean, that's the only way you can really skip B. It's like I don't want to do this, so I'm going to give you money to do what I want to do, and you can do it for me, and I'll take the success from it because you took the money from it. So win-win. But I mean, that's like with the art of not thinking. Like "fuck you, money." It's any amount of money in the book's definition. It's any amount of money that it takes for you to say "fuck you" to anyone, like your job, your boss, your parents, anyone, some random dude off the street. How much money do you need in your pocket to say "fuck you" to opportunity? For anyone, that could be $1, that could be $20, that could be a week's salary, a month's salary, that could be the rest of their life paid off. It could be $100,000. How much money do you need to tell your boss tomorrow? Fuck you. Because I mean, he's probably going to fire you if you say that. Like, guaranteed, there's going to be consequences. So, what amount of money do you need to negate the consequences of life? And that's fuck you money. And in that sense, it's also skipping B money. It's like, how much money do you have to give to a ghostwriter to write your book, to write your song? How much money do you have to give to the mechanic to build your race car for you because you don't want to learn how to do mechanics? Like, you need the money. So, I mean, that's the only way you're skipping B. But yeah.
That's interesting. I've thought about like diluting the fulfillment process of well, like in the creative process, what actually is fulfilling to me, and it's still an exploration. But I've thought about like, man, why do I have to do all of it? There's only some of it I enjoy, really.
Yeah,
I
no,
want
I totally
because
get
I've been
that.
trying to be the one man hero this whole time, and I know other
Absolutely.
people have.
It's like with being an author, like the books that I write, I do all the editing, I do all the writing. Up until the fantasy books, I did all the illustrations as well. Like I drew the maps, I do them on ink, and I file scan them through a computer. So my wife, she told me I can't crumple up my pages anymore when I mess them up because I'm a perfectionist. So it's like if I'm doing the letter A, and then let's say the table jostles just a little bit, and it's like fuck, crumple it up and then throw it away. Can't do that anymore because now my daughter's copying me, so she sees me crumpling up pages I've messed up, and I gave her a sheet to color, and
Oh,
I guess she didn't like
oh,
the red line that she did on it. She crumpled it up, so now it's like I can't do that. But that being said, map making is really fulfilling to me. I love seeing my world coming more and more to life, but it takes all that work. And I could use ink carne, and then I could erase and delete sections, change it so much easier, but then it doesn't give me that fulfillment that doing a hand drawn map does. And then illustrations, I drew for the Northern Wars in particular, I drew landscape scenery for like the Hobbit style illustrations, like a page illustration before a chapter type thing, like Aglarian woodlands or like the Imperial City Center, stuff like that. That took so much time. That was the only book that I illustrated like that. I also paid one of my wife's friends to illustrate the cover of the book. And so, I mean, I don't do everything myself, but I do 99% of it. And it's a lot of work, but I mean, it is definitely fulfilling. It's definitely worth it. Like,
yeah,
to me, it's what I love. And if you love doing something, I mean, you got to learn to love the work that you got to put into it.
yeah, that's true. And the fulfillment is something that, well, honestly, money can't buy the fulfillment.
Yeah. I mean,
Oftentimes, the fulfillment is in the process itself.
Yeah, it's like they say with the treasure was the friends you met along the way.
True.
Yeah,
It's true, and so I I like to explore. Personally, I found recently, I like to explore stuff that I already love. Like for some time, I was thinking like, man, I have to make my own. I got to do everything from scratch. When that's never really been the case. Like I've never actually wanted to do that. And where my passion lies is in exploring the stuff that I grew up with. So I forget I was going with that. But but
yeah,
oh, the idea was that sometimes you're close to the mark, like your point C. Maybe it's a little diluted because of how much you've been staring at point B, right?
yeah.
Do you ever find that yourself?
Um, I can kind of relate to that. Like with the books, for example. Like I mean, every time I finish one, I feel like I've gotten to point C, but then I realize like maybe I'm going through the whole alphabet and point Z is my final point because now I've got to start this book and then this book and then this book. So I'll just get to work on this one right now. And so I mean, it's kind of like I guess it's good because I mean, at the same time, like I've always got something to look forwards to, but then at the same time, it can get a bit diluted like that because then the success. I should feel success for finishing. For example, I just wrote the Chronicles of Bree Part One, so I should feel success. I should feel like I'm at point C with that book, but then it kind of feels like I've gotten to point C out of D because now I've got to write the Chronicles of Bree Part Two. Then when I finish that, there's the Chronicles of Bree Part Three. Then there's Bosca. There's the Iron War. There's the Holy Martyr, and it's like, wow, where am I going right now? Like, what do I do next? Should I focus on this book or should I focus on this book? But then I still got to write this book. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
That's that's interesting. I find something similar myself, and what I've gotten to thinking is the result is great, right? It's fantastic, and personally, I love to experience it and re-experience it, but then that gets me closer to either a D or like a more defined C, where I'm like, but then we want to have it like, because really what I want to do is make sound for games,
oh wow.
specifically like to explore the old games that I played growing up, and to create like a custom campaign, all this like different stuff, and create the music for that. Like have a whole experience exploring the world that's already there. I
Yeah.
didn't know that 3 weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago, I was like, oh, I like creating my own stories, right? And then so I made like a story song. This was in October. It's like,
Yeah.
damn, that was so cool. And we had the premiere. I didn't even care how many people were there, just that people were there for the premiere. I was
Yeah.
living my most fulfilled. I was like, wow, that was amazing. And then I was like, I don't want to do that again. I want to I want to explore over here. So I take all that. Now I'm exploring this way.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is what I find is the fulfillment comes from a specific pattern of approach. Like you're exploring your world, and then you get the thing, and you like spend all this time, all this work. Boom, it's done. You're like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now we need to explore more. There's never any end. But
Yeah.
that's a good thing, right? Because if we ever stopped being fulfilled, then that would truly be like the nihilist nightmare, right? Where like
Yeah.
really nothing matters and it's a bad thing because
I
you don't get anything.
definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's like to a degree, I feel like I definitely sympathise with you on that because I've actually got so with my books, I'm writing the books. I've got the whole series lined up and stuff. And then at the same time, one of my dreams has been like where I was mentioning Elder Scrolls before. I would love to see my books in that kind of style. So one thing I've done is I've created a card, or I'm in the process of creating a card game for my books. Like I got the rules down. I just got to make all the cards, put all the details into them because I found a card creating site like tcg.com or something like that, or I can't remember the actual site now, but it's like card creating site. One downside is it's more of like poker cards compared to Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic cards, where each deck is exactly the cards that you put into the deck. There's no randomization, so that kind of sucks. But that's pushed me to where it's like, okay, I'll make 3 decks for each faction, and then I'll have booster packs. I'll have the starter deck, the like this deck, that deck, and then expansion packs and stuff. And then that should make enough randomization that it's not like, oh wow, we've all got the same deck of cards between the 8 of us. But so then when I finish the book, I see that adding to that pile of potential cards that I can make. Because now I've got more characters, more events, more land cards. But then I've also got to put all the work into getting the imagery for the cards and making the cards and making sure that it's not basically the same card 8 different times with 8 different names and all that nonsense. I also want to create an RPG game, like an MMO for my books, like Elder Scrolls. Not me personally, because I can't code. I don't know any of that stuff. So like, I want someone that has an interest in it, that falls in love with the books, to want to see it real. And I'm hoping one day that can happen in my life. And if I ever do get to that point where it's like, finally I'm at point D, I'm at point Z, done. Well, now I can play the games. Now I can play the video games. Now I can play the card game with people and stuff. That would be cool. I mean, so it's like I feel like that alone would save me from the nihilism. Because I mean, I don't know with musicians if they actually like playing their own music. Like, but I feel like it's almost like that for me, where it's like once I've created all of my albums, I can finally create my ultimate playlist, and now that's my driving beats. But
Yeah, that's 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 a really good point. I've thought about that a lot myself. I'm like, when will I actually want to listen to it? Like, I think maybe for me, a good milestone or something bigger than a milestone, honestly,
yeah,
would be a point where I make something and it pays homage to my roots so much that I'm like, this can go on the playlist.
oh, definitely. Like, and I feel like it might be the same with musicians, but like I know after I've written my books, like I go through editing them to a point where it's like I've lived this life. This is actually a part of my life now. Like I have these actual memories of people that never existed, and I can recall it because it did exist in my head. But then once I got through all that editing, once I've lived through that life like 18 different times to get to the point that I can publish it, sits for like 5 years or something, sits for like 2 years, whatever. When I open it up again, because someone tells me, oh, there's like a typo on page 287. Did you mean though, or was it thought? Oh shit. Okay, let me look at that line. I look at that line, I edit it, fix it, republish it, or resubmit it. It doesn't have to be republished. It's still the same edition, but then I'll think, oh God, what if there are other typos in it? Let me reread the whole book again. And then reading it, it's like, fuck, I actually wrote this. This is like someone else's book that I just put my name on. Fuck. And I'm reading it, and it's like it doesn't feel like it's my book. It feels like someone else wrote it. Like I feel like maybe musicians go through that too. It's like no, it's been like 8 years since I listened to this song that I wrote in high school. Wow, it's actually banging. Like who sung this? Me? Fuck. uh,
No, I 100% relate. I actually have done exactly that, both in my writing and in my music. I go back, I'm like, damn, you were really cooking with this one. I'm like,
and it doesn't feel like so egotistical when it sounds like it's someone else's either. Because after all that time, it's like I don't even feel like I'm flattering myself right now. Like, yeah, this is really well written. It's not even like that. It's like, no, fuck, I actually like this. Where's this going? Wait, I wrote this. Never mind. I already know how it ends.
You know, that's actually a very true phenomenon, and I find that as well in the voice too. Like, that's actually the experience that I go for with my students, because I've had those experiences with my voice itself, where you're listening as a member of the audience,
Yeah.
and it's actually a point where, so like, I like to think of it like a balance and a fulcrum. And
Okay.
so the effort level, let's say you're on this side, it's like the more you have to work for it, and the more you do work for it, the more you are driven and like attached to the outcome, and you feel like you're in the outcome. Whereas if you're working very little for it, you just kind of watch like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
The same thing is for the voice, because I've had like out of body experiences before with the voice, and I was like, wait, I'm not even doing anything right now.
Oh
It's
man.
crazy. With music, I haven't gotten there yet, because I feel like I work for my music, and then I'm like, I expect result.
Yeah.
I've gotten to a point in writing where I'm like, whoa, that's so crazy. I wasn't like thinking. Do you know what I'm saying, or am I going like out of space?
No, no, I totally get that. I mean, it's funny because like at one point when I was like 15, back in like high school, I went back to Ireland, or not back because I've never been there prior to that, but went to visit my nan in Ireland, and my cousin, my cousin by marriage at the time, me and him, we were jamming out, like making music and stuff because he took some of my lyrics off of MySpace back when I was like 15. I mean, it sounds cringe because I mean, like, oh, 15-year-old lyrics on MySpace, right? Okay. But hearing it now, it's like I don't even remember the lyrics to a degree, but then I know the songs because we literally performed them in his flat and I wrote the lyrics. But it almost comes across as like someone else's songs in the same sense too, because it's like, fuck, I forgot about this. Like, oh my god, I'm slightly embarrassed. And I was like, I mean, it doesn't sound awful, but it's not something I'm gonna go hang around outside of Walmart like, hey, buy my mixtape. But about to go grab my smokes really quick.
Oh, no worries.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, kind of to recap on that, it's there's a level of, or there's like a relationship between how much work you put into something, like how hard it feels, and how much you feel you're in the end result.
Yeah.
And somehow it feels best when you're like hardly in it at all, but it's just like the thing that you wanted to see.
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, like, I mean, with the books, I put so much of myself into them that it really took all that extra time, like all those years, to really look back on it. And then it's like finally, like, yeah, I wasn't really a part of this at all. Whereas with the music, it's like I provided the lyrics, I provided the vocals, which I don't mean to talk down on vocalists. It's just that I'm not a vocalist, so it feels like minimal effort to me. Whereas an actual professional vocalist, it's like you're putting in tons of work. Like, so definitely like mad respect. But me, it's just like, yeah, I can sound like Marilyn Manson, I think. But, but yeah, so I mean,
There's something freeing to that though.
yeah,
It's very
exactly.
freeing.
Like that little reverb echo effect. I just got like that
Yeah.
raspy voice from the cigarette, so it kind of helps with it.
Yeah. No, I mean, ideally, I would want everyone to have minimal effort, because it's the most amazing feeling when you get more than what you put in.
Oh, you know what? That actually reminds me. The other day, me and my wife, I cannot remember the name of the movie for the life of me, even though it was literally just last night. But this film that we watched, it was so overacted. like every single scene, it felt like almost like they were gonna rupture a hemorrhoid. It's like you were trying so hard. I'm surprised you didn't shit yourself. Like if you acted any harder, you probably passed something through. So I mean, it's like let's say the dude gets shot and he's sitting there and he's like, Jay, you need to tell my brother. Tell him I did it the hard way. Oh, that's the name of the movie. Yeah, The Hard Way.
Oh my
It
god!
was so overacted, man. Like I don't even
Oh
want to
my
shit on that,
god!
but it was like literally,
Oh,
it's like you put so much into it. It's not a bad movie. It's just it's not even bad acting. It's just so over the top. Like they put so much effort in that it doesn't even feel lifelike anymore. Whereas like me and you talking right now, it's real. It's like no effort. Like we didn't write a script. We're not trying to come across as any way. Whereas it's like you can feel when someone's reading the teleprompter in that sense. I feel like,
yeah.
and I mean that was the issue with the movie is it's like it's that intense acting where it's like if I just got shot, I'm not gonna be on that kind of vibe. It's like oh fuck, I think this is the end. Fuck, tell my brother. I mean, first, yeah, you're gonna need to tell my brother I did it the hard way. Like man, you like this doesn't even feel real. This feels like I'm watching a Shakespeare play.
Yeah.
But I mean, and like I said, it wasn't a bad movie. It's just when you look at that and then you look at a movie that the acting is not as intense, it feels more real. Like, because we just also watched the Underwater movie, and it was not overacted. It was like you could feel like they're in the emotions. It's almost as if it's actually happening to them. They were given no script and they just have to like figure it out themselves type shit. And I feel like that's the best acting that you can do. Where it's like, fuck, are they
Yeah.
actually in this? Like, did they just get kidnapped and then put into a van and now they're in this situation? And hey, guess what? Escape room time, motherfuckers. Fuck, everything's gonna blow up around us. What do we do? How do you turn this off? I don't even fucking know. Yeah, that feels real. Whereas, oh my god, I just realized I don't even know how to turn off the oven. How are we gonna turn the oven off before the house explodes? Oh, just fuck.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I can definitely say some of my some of my writing has been like that. When I feel like everyone goes through a bell curve, right?
Yeah.
Because at first, just like you're saying, I'm not a vocalist, and I feel I can sound like Marilyn Manson, so whatever.
Yeah.
Then you get more into it. You start studying. You're like, oh, shit, this is so hard. Like I got to do all this stuff, and I got to learn all this pedagogy, and I've got to amount to so much, put in all this work. You're at the top of the bell curve, and you're like, I know so much, and I'm so much better than everyone. Right? This is like the ego bell curve. Then
Yeah. I
you get
mean,
some experiences. You get humbled. You come down. You're like, I'm just the same as where I started. I'm not doing anything different.
I mean, 'cause it's like you got writers and they'll study the techniques and they'll study all of the implements and that, and they could implement everything perfectly into the text to like emulate someone like Tolkien and that. But I mean, it goes back to the music and stuff. Like, I mean, where you're talking about like actually learning the techniques and implementing them, but putting in that minor effort. Like, if you put too much effort into the writing, then it might not even have an emphasis on the story at that point. It might be a really well written piece of shit in a sense. Where it's like, I mean, the writing is exceptional. They used really great adjectives, adverbs. They described everything perfectly. But then all the story was about was a man taking a shit, and it's just really just it's just a very well written story that I don't want to read.
That's an amazing like backhanded critic.
Oh, fuck. Well, I mean, I can't think of a
It's
single
my
book
brother
like that
though.
offhand. I can't think of any books like that offhand. That's just going off the top of my head, like thinking of putting in the effort and the training and everything, but no outcome.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
actually, no. I'll say one story like that. It's a movie. It was this movie where the guy's stuck in a box. Like they got all the elements of horror, they got all the elements of everything, but then the whole movie is just literally in the darkness, and there's brief moments where the dude's phone illuminates him, and then he's just in a box, and it's like you got all the elements of horror, you got all the elements of the genre, you got all the elements of being trapped in a box. But who the fuck wants to sit in a movie theater for 2 hours watching a dark screen that occasionally illuminates the guy's face? Ah, I'm in a box. You can't get to me. I'm gonna die in here. Like, I mean, to some people, I mean, that's probably a good movie, so I don't want to shit on it too much, but it just, my mentality, it's like a very well written, dull thing.
Yeah, it just goes to show that, and this is something that I would say to. Well, it sounds like you're alluding to is like in the creative process. The just like back to the A, B, and C concept. The B, all the skills, all the money, all the technical jargon.
Yeah,
It's not the heart of what you want to do. And then when you pivot, and you're like, oh, I got to B, so you got all this stuff, and that's actually follows the bell curve perfectly right there.
yeah,
That's the top. You got all this stuff, and you're doing it. Technically, it's amazing, right? It's just, nobody
yeah.
can say otherwise, but there's no heart whatsoever.
Mm.
So we have to come back.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause it's like you could have all the vocal training and you could have the perfect voice, but then if you don't have any substance to the lyrics that you're singing, it's kind of like, well, this song is shit. Like, it sounds good, but it's shit.
Yeah, yeah, that's a scary moment.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and luckily I can't think of anything offhand like that. It's just more in the sense of, like, I suppose hypotheticals.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think I can think of an.
I mean, and then it's like, even when you look at it, like, there's one band in particular that I really fucking love, and I've seen them get harsh criticism along these kinds of lines. The band is called XRX, and it's like an industrial band, like club music and that, like gothic club music, and critics keep saying stuff along the line. Well, not keep saying, but I mean, from what I've seen in critics, they say stuff along the lines of like, ah, it's a really repetitive song. Every single song sounds the exact same. But for me, it's like they're good songs. Like that's my driving music. That's my like writing music. Like it's very heavy beats, like electronic. Like I mean, yeah, it's kind of repetitive, but I feel like it's not about the content, it's about the vibe that it gives you. Whereas in the reverse, if it's got no vibe and it's got the content, it could be empty. And if it's got just the vibe and it's got no content, for some people, it's just dull and repetitive and stuff. It's like, well, I've listened to one of their songs, every single song sounds the same, why would I listen to more of it? But for me, it's like, no, it's the vibe. This vibe it gives you, like every single song is exactly how it should be. But I mean, to each their own. That's exactly what it is. When I said with the box movie, like, yeah, to me that's a shit movie because it's just black screen, dude in a box, occasional illumination of the phone. It's not my cup of tea. But then for other people, it's like this is so fucking incredible. Like it's never been done before, and it's like everybody likes different things. So I mean,
Yeah,
as long as the passion's there, I mean, what you want to do with it, people will come around to it. Like people might hate my books because they hate fantasy, or they might hate low fantasy, or they might hate this, they might hate that. But then other people, it's like this is exactly what I wanted. And then other people, it's like this is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen. Like it's just stupid. But
no, there's definitely, it's true. There's a cup of tea for everyone.
yeah, I mean, because I've got friends that hate rap. They can't stand Cardi B, Rihanna, fucking Nicki Minaj. I mean, I'm not into that type of music personally, but I mean, there's plenty of people that'll tell me I'm stupid because I don't like it. So I mean, there's plenty of people that are big into that. And then for me, it's like I like gothic industrial music. For a lot of people, it's like that just sounds like fucking someone smashing trash cans together with like a techno beat. And it's dog shit. Like you can't even understand what
Oh
they're
man,
saying.
it's just, yeah, it's just everyone has their own taste.
Definitely.
That's that's interesting. Actually, I forgot we talked about that. So this is a fun little like connection because I didn't really listen to music until I was 17. like legitimately music. I was just like put something on, something that I'd heard on the radio. I'm like, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't even care. And again, it's the bell curve thing, right?
Yeah.
I was 17. We were moving out, and it was like it's the formula for teenage angst. So there was a song that I guess I'd heard before. It was like, or maybe I hadn't. But anyway, it ended up being Pearl Jam, Even Flow, and it was like,
Oh, nice.
what is that sound? And yeah, and so I went down the grunge train to metal to industrial, and then kind of came back to my roots. But along the way, my dad and actually I also played Quake growing up. Along the way, I found that Nine Inch Nails did like the soundtrack for Quake 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, what? That's him? You
Speaking of
did that?
which,
That's what kind of got me back. I was like, wait, you can do music for games? That's sick.
yeah, hell yeah, man. Like, blew my mind all the stuff that Nine Inch Nails has done and produced music for. I mean, like I was saying earlier, like fucking ironic you mentioned Nine Inch Nails because I got the Nine Inch Nails top on. But
Yeah, that's where I got it from. I stole it.
but hell yeah, man. But yeah, like it's funny you mentioned that though of being off the music because I mean it was kind of the same thing with me. Like when I was growing up as a child, like 3, 5 years old range, my dad would listen to Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, all that in the car. So I've got all these memories of Marilyn Manson, like beautiful people and that. And my stepdad, he was not big into Marilyn Manson, didn't like it at all. So I grew up not listening to it from like 2001 up until like I was in middle school, like 2007. There was this kid that had Marilyn Manson playing on his iPod. Shows it to me because he was like, "Yo, check out this song." Or I think I asked somebody who was listening to, like, we just struck up a conversation. He shows me Beautiful People by Marilyn Manson. I was like, bro, this song was from my childhood. So I look up Marilyn Manson on my PSP when I get home and then downloaded his old discography at that time, like 2007. Fell in love with gothic industrial music again. And then ever since that moment, like, I've been big into music. Like, before that, it was like just radio pop songs and stuff. Like, I mean, music's all right. It's just background. But then now it's like, fuck, Marilyn Manson, Nakmar, Rammstein, Orgy, all these bands, just like, it's fucking, it's a vibe.
It's a vibe, man. It's interesting because you know, I kind of had the same experience in that. They're like early on, kind of just whatever's on. It's just like, oh, that's just cool.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say is, for me, for like some reason, I had this thing where I just like assimilated that things your parents do are not cool. So we're not supposed to like them or like engage. So my parents' music, I was like, that's parents' music. I'm not allowed to like that.
Yeah.
And but then I would like I remember one of the first songs that I like went back and when YouTube came around, I actually looked into was like it was some stuff from oh no, it was before YouTube actually. It was
Oh,
some
man.
Daddy Yankee, some reggaeton,
Oh,
some
nice.
yeah, some uh well some other stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then I got into I guess I found a sound that kind of like touched me in a way. It was like that the Pearl Jam kind of thing. And then the same thing with Rammstein. When I
Yeah.
heard, my friend showed me, I think it was Zona, and it was at the time I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't care about other music, so I only listened to Pearl Jam for that. And then I heard that, and I knew a song was good if it came back to me later, and it did. I was like, what is this? And I explored it, and it was like, there's something here I have to tap into. It seems like at some point you come to find something that it's like it's a sound you want to explore.
Yeah.
What do you feel like that is?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, so like when it's almost like a coming of age thing where
I
you just hear something that like touches you on an intimate level. You're like, that's something I want to explore. If you could sum
yeah.
that up, what would that be?
Um, yeah, I mean, because they say music speaks to your soul, like, I mean, it's full of passion. So, I mean, when you find a song you resonate with, I mean, what's the word for it? Like, I suppose, like, essential, like, the German word, Bersensach. Like, I can't pronounce
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I just know the word. Like, I think it was in a Rammstein song or an album, actually. Yeah, it was an album. But,
Hmm.
it's like an addictive longing, like, kind of like nostalgia for something you haven't had. And I mean, I feel like, I mean, that's kind of like the thing that music brings out in people. Like, I feel like not really a word in English, but definitely a really good word in German. Like, I feel like music
Yeah,
speaks to people on that kind of level where it's like you feel these things that you don't even recognize, but I mean, they're there within you and they come out through that music.
that's interesting. German does have a lot of words like that.
Like, yeah, a lot of languages do. Like, it's crazy. Everybody thinks that English is like this universal language, and meanwhile, it's like you try and describe things in English, then it's like you're at a loss for words half the time. I mean, if you get into deep things, like I feel like English is only really good for directly pertaining to you or to your surroundings. Like, what color is the hose? The hose is red. Where do you live? I live in my house. But then when you get into something deep and profound, it's like, how do you feel today? It's like, I feel good. Well, you can't really express it that well, but then you get into another language and you can express exactly how you're feeling right now. Whereas in English, it's like, it's not a physical thing that you can touch, so we don't really need a word for that. We'll just use all the words that exist to try and analogize it. But
That's a good point. That's actually kind of when I started with poetry. That's kind of what it came down to. I was like, I was saying things. I call it like oblique in an oblique manner,
yeah,
where you say something. It's not really about what you're saying, but what it implies.
yeah,
Because English is like is very good at implicit meaning. So you can do that. You just like slap this patch of words down on its own. It's almost gibberish,
yeah.
but the feeling it evokes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like that reading between the lines bit.
yeah. That's interesting coming from. Well, I suppose our backgrounds are like parallel in that sense, but apart in that. Well, I'll be honest. I haven't read your writing, but I imagine it's not quite so oblique, right?
I would hope it's very transparent in that sense. Like, 'cause I try to write in a kind of in a sense of like being there in the moment, like almost like in a video game, kind of like my wife says that that's how it came across to her as well, but like almost like you're playing a video game, watching the character. So instead of playing the game, more of like a walkthrough. So I try to keep the words very direct and unlike Tolkien, I don't get too big into descriptions. I try to leave a little bit of it to the reader's imagination. Like I might say that a character from England, like because I'm British, like might say a character from England has blonde hair, long hair, beard, and maybe blue eyes. But then I'm not going to get into like his nose was pointed like an eagle's talons or had teeth that were yellow, aging, and falling out, and stuff like that. It's like I'll leave that to the reader's imagination. Like you can envision Liam Neeson as this character if you want. Like it works for you, but I'll definitely differentiate between this guy is elderly and this guy is young. But I don't try to go too much into like each tree had like 8 folds within the bark and the bark was peeling off at the edges. No, I'm going to write it. It's an aging tree. Like you can perceive that how you want. Is it rotten or is it ripe, or how do you want to perceive it? Like, I'll leave that bit to you so you can feel a more personal touch, because I notice a lot of people have been saying that more in today's times, where it's like they feel like they can't relate to the characters because the characters aren't, I guess, don't look like them or aren't relatable in that sense. I try to leave a bit of it to the readers, where it's like you can make them someone that you know, you can make it someone that you're familiar with, someone that you feel attached to. Like, I'm not going to tell you, like, oh, he looks like Tom Cruise. If you don't picture this character like Tom Cruise, you're reading the book wrong. Nah, only the two.
That's funny.
Thanks.
I I did used to picture characters like as people or some faces that I knew. My mom used to read to me when we was when we were kids here, and yeah, it's interesting now that you bring that up. But it sounds like your writing is more like experiencing the timeline rather than being able to stop at the tree and like you could visit the tree if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, if they're walking through a forest, I'll describe what trees are in the forest. Like, they're walking through a birch forest, and they can hear sounds of wildlife scuttling around. They're walking through this sunken path. The path is like 3 feet deeper than the land on either side, and there's brambles everywhere. And it's like, I mean, if you want to take a moment to pause and just look around this forest that I'll just put you in as the reader, feel free. But if you want to continue, they just got shot at by 3 archers, hiding in the woods. So now there's an action scene coming up, and I try to focus more on the politics, the philosophy, the idealism, and the emotions, as opposed to like the physical, like, because the books, they're semi-parallel to history, because in a sense history is written by the winner, so I try to portray that through the books, because it's like, well, who's the bad guys, who's the good guys? Like in World War II, the Nazis were the bad guys, but I'm not going to try to sympathize with the Nazis, so I'll pick a different subject, but let's say the Cold War. Well, the Russians, they believed that capitalism was going to come into the East and that it was going to ruin them. And then in the West, they thought that the Soviet communism was going to ruin their society. So they both basically armed themselves, thinking, well, they're making nuclear weapons. We need to make more nuclear weapons. Well, fuck, they're mass piling nuclear weapons. We need to get some of our own. Well, who's at fault? I mean, if you're in a Soviet country, then you believe America's at fault. If you're in a Western country, you believe the Soviet Union is like causing all this unnecessary aggression and tension. So then in the books, it's like the Kingdom of Legion, they illegalize cannabis because the Aglorians grow cannabis and they bring it through Legion to sell it to the elves of Aenor. So the King of Legion, he illegalizes it because the Aglorians refuse to sell it to them. The Aglorians don't sell it to the Legionnaires because they're a money hungry society, so they're going to pay these Aglorians like 2 gold pieces for like a kilo of their weight, which they'll sell for like 10 gold. So it's like, we're not going to sell it to them because they're just going to rip us off. We're selling it to the elves because they'll give us absinthe, we'll give them cannabis, and then we're all happy. We just travel through their country to sell it to the elves. But then since the king illegalized it, he starts arresting them at the border for carrying confiscated substances. So due to that, one of the characters in Aglor, his son gets arrested because he wanted to make the trip to the elves for his first time because he's 16 now. So it's like, I want to do this trip. It's like my right to manhood. So then he gets arrested at the border because they didn't know that it was illegalized because the kingdom didn't tell them. It's 2 separate countries. But because of that, it's like, you can't arrest my son. Then you got Liam Neeson Taken style film going on, but then at the same time, he's one insurrectionist out of thousands of people that are pissed off at the kingdom. So the kingdom's waging a war because they're trying to invade, they're trying to cause an insurrection. They're refusing to pay the tax penalty for traveling through their country because they can't afford it because it's a poorer country to the north. And so, I mean, all this stuff combined, it's like, well, is the Kingdom of Legion the bad guy because they illegalized cannabis and they arrested people that walked through their country with it? Or is Aglor evil because they didn't sell it to them to begin with? And the people are just doing what the king told them to do. So are they the bad guys? Or is the king the bad guy? Or who's really bad in that situation? It's kind of like they want this, they don't want to give it to them, but then it's because they don't want to pay for it. So then everybody's kind of in this fucked up situation because of politics, and no one really had any control over that. Like, it's a geopolitical issue. It's like multiple countries involved in this thing that didn't have to happen, but it happened through a sudden onset of events. So there's no real good, there's no real evil. Like, only one book I wrote has an actual evil side, and that's the Gorgon Desolation, because the orcs worship a demon. They sacrifice the elves to it. But even that, it justifies the orcs because, yeah, the demon god told them that I'm the true god, the elves are demons, but their magic makes you believe that they're beautiful, but that's because their magic has blinded you to the reality. So if you sacrifice them to me, it will prevent the apocalypse, but if you join them, then the world will end. So the orcs think they're doing the right thing. Meanwhile, the elves, it's like, these guys worship Satan, and they fucking sacrifice us. That's like... Um, So, I mean, it's like, even in the face of true evil, it's not like we're evil because we want to make people cry. It's like, no, we're evil because they're evil. So we have to combat evil. But then that makes us the bad guys because they believe themselves to be the good guys, but we're the real good guys. And both sides could say that because, I mean, really, who's the bad guy? Like, it just depends on which side of history you were born on.
Yeah, that's the nature of perspective. And
Yeah, I mean, and that's the type of stuff that I try to focus on with my books, as opposed to just creating like this living, breathing world. I try to create it through the feelings, the emotions, the events, instead of the heavy descriptors and the words that make you feel like you're there. I try to make you feel like you're there through the feelings of it instead of just the physics.
yeah, so like kind of a living the world rather than observing the world.
Exactly. It's like you feel like you're in the world compared to you see that you're in the world. Like, Tolkien was really good because he'll capture you, and it's like you can see everything that he's describing and you can feel it. But then with my books, it's like it feels like you're talking to these people, like you're watching them, and it gives you these feelings of like annoyance at their stupidity, or it gives you these feelings of rage at the injustice, or whatever else, like all those types of feelings, compared to like, wow, I can see this tree, he described it so great, and wow, like I can literally see everything as it's like happening. It's like, no, you can feel it. I mean, you can see the things happening, but I mean, you see them through your creativity, you don't see them through my descriptions of it.
Huh. That's a really interesting point.
Well, thank you.
You see it through your creativity.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people try to focus on describing things that the readers can see it for themselves, that they can understand it as it's intended to be, and then you've got symbology and illusions. Like, I mean, the door is red in this book because the red symbolizes vengeance, and it's foreshadowing it. Like, I don't really do that personally. Like, I mean, if I end up describing something as a color, it's because it's that color. Like, they got a purple and gold flag, and that's because they believe that the purple is a majestic shade and that gold signifies their riches. But then, I mean, what color is the front door of the insurrectionist's house? I don't give a shit. You imagine it for yourself. Okay, it's a typical black door, okay. Or, okay, he wants it to be red, okay, cool. I mean, red for anarchy, right?
Go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That actually gave me a really that gave me an idea that I feel like is like too gold. Okay, so I'm imagining like taking this to the extreme. 'Cause I guess that's where my imagination goes.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, what if we had a story where we had key points, we had landmarks, and then you just kind of there's nothing in between. You kind of just fill in the blanks, maybe, if you want to.
And that's kind of exactly what I do with my books. Like, I kind of remove, I mean, not all the way, but to a degree, I kind of remove the travel. I kind of implement fast travel into the book world in a sense, because it's like that's one thing that I didn't like about the Lord of the Rings is there's so much walking and walking and walking, and it's described in full. I feel like I really just walked through Mordor. Like fuck, it's so featureless and it's so long and infinite. Jesus Christ, just get there already. Fuck. But then it's not so simple. That's the point of it. Is it's truly this barren landscape that you've got to navigate. But then with my books, it's like, yeah, I'm going to tell you that, but then the next chapter it skips a whole season. So that's 3 months that have just gone by. They've been struggling. They're starving. Like 100 of these people died already on the journey. Like everybody's fucked. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that skipped a whole lot, but I mean, I don't feel like I missed much. 100 people died. They were starving. Fuck, that sounds boring as shit. I feel bad for them. Compared to, God, I feel like I'm starving now. Fuck, I'm going to eat a sandwich halfway through this chapter. Jesus Christ. Not to shit on J.R. Tolkien, because I mean, like I said before, I mean, he's fundamental to my love for writing and reading. His books are by far the best I've ever read.
That's really interesting that the polarity.
I feel like he probably smacked the shit out of me if you heard me talking just now. Like, oh, well, you think you're better than me? No, I'm just literally the opposite. Like,
Oh man, the Tolkien was a savant in his linguistic field and developing the languages.
I've got so much respect for everything he's done with that series because I mean, I've only done half the work that he's put into it, but I put the other half of that work into other aspects of my books. Like, I've told people a lot of times because I use real world languages for my books. I don't use real cultures. I twist and manipulate them to create an independent culture that you could see the similarities between. Like the Imperial Kingdom of Legion is a parallel of France, and the Aglorians are a parallel of the Dutch, of the Belgians, and that. But at the same time, when you look at the Imperial Kingdom of Legion, it's like it feels very French, but they're not French. And it's yeah, well, it's because it's based loosely around them, but then twisted and adulterated to create its own culture, create its own nation. I don't want to use actual Europe. I don't want to use actual Africa, actual America, but I want you to feel the similarities because that's part of what the books portray is like my ideology of history itself, like history, warfare, and all that. But so that being said, back to the Tolkien thing. Tolkien created his languages from the ground up, alphabets, fucking words, everything. Like they've got rules and structure. And if I did that personally, I know that it would take me my entire life just to create the one continent that I've got going on, if I could even do it in that period of time. It's so much, like nine different countries with 9 different languages, 9 different alphabets, or even just 3 different alphabets like Cyrillic, English, maybe Arabic. Like that would still take so much effort, so much time, so much work and dedication and perseverance just to actually create them, let alone write the books taking place there. So if I use English for the Imperial Kingdom, I use Dutch for the Aglorians, I use Spanish for Spaniol, I use German for the Nordic tribes. Like, it cuts down that effort, it cuts down that workload, but then at the same time, I mean, I feel like it adds to the story because then, wow, this language feels real. It's because it is real. And then I can actually incorporate it into the story. Like, let's say a character gets shot by an Imperial archer, and then let's say a slew of Aglorian arrows pelt the Imperials in response, like they counterattack them. Maybe the Imperials will be like, Putain! Fate faire foutre! Or fate faire foutre! Like, what? He didn't even provide a translation. Go to Google really quick, look up French to English, and then type that in, and then you'll see, fuck! Go to hell, motherfuckers! Or go fuck yourselves. And then it's like, wow, he used the real world language, and it was just curses. Yeah, I'm not going to translate the curse words. Like, if you want to find out what they said, Google it. Like, you can kind of get an idea of what language it is. Like, Kankerensum, like Dutch cancerous whore. So I mean, to a degree, it's like I've had people say that it's cheating, but then at the same time, I'm not trying to do what Tolkien did. I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do, and that's why I got all that respect for him. 'Cause, I mean, he went above and beyond. Like he's done stuff that no other fantasy author did. Like Star Trek, I mean, even with the Klingon language, like people can speak fluent in Klingon, and it's because they made a real language. Like I'm mad impressed by that, but it would take me too much time and too much work to do that. That it would take away from me being able to actually finish my series.
Yes, that the degrees of like the degrees of C, right? Because or of B maybe is you have your A, your B, all the money, all the skills, all this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, my B is the world building and the history building and the writing, whereas their B was the creating of the languages and the study of language and linguistics and the creation of these cultures. I
Wow.
mean, so our C is the same outcome. It's finishing the books. It's just the levels of the work that go into them. We put it into different aspects.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
puts some things into perspective.
Yeah, and it's like the same thing with music. Like, I mean, if you put all your time and effort into playing guitar, then I mean, you're going to be a great guitarist. But could you make a song all on your own? No, you need someone that's also done the music, like the vocals and the drums. And if you do all of it by yourself, you might produce less than someone who's only doing one of those things. Like a full functioning band of 5 people might make 20 albums in their lifetime, and you, as doing everything yourself, you might make 5 to 10, but that's because you put your work into different aspects, whereas they put their work into different aspects, and the volume of work is the same. It's just the outcome of it. It's different depending on what you've done, and then sometimes you need to work with other people because you're lacking in areas. Like with me, I've got to research history, and I've got to research politics. I've got to research like all of history across all the world. So I mean that on its own is like a similar workload as fucking researching a language or researching multiple languages to get to the root of the rules of language to write your own linguistics and all that.
Yeah, that's true. Something to think about. So, like collaboration's sake, you
Yeah.
have your strength, and then maybe for this for getting to C, you want your C to look a little more whole. Or you have this like big picture of like something that makes it whole. So you need someone or some things to fit in.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good way to think about it.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate that. I mean, I feel like I'm learning a lot
Oh, thank you.
for
But
sure.
yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, it's really great getting to bounce the ideas back and forth, getting to hear your perspective and then giving my perspective and like coming to like see the similarities between ours and then also seeing each other's.
Yeah, that is it is very interesting. Like what an exploration. I didn't imagine we'd go to this long. This has been a huge deep dive into all number of things. We talked about philosophy, the art of not thinking, freaking life, and
Yeah, man, I almost feel bad keeping you up. Like,
oh no, it's totally fine. I mean, it's only afternoon here.
oh no, I didn't mean like awake. I meant like like keeping you on the video chat. Cause I'm like, I don't know how long a usual podcast goes, but fuck, I'm probably like maxing you out.
Oh no, it's actually it's good to have a longer conversation. It's a different experience because you have a little time to pause and actually break from some of the topics and let something simmer. I feel like it becomes more of a learning experience in a way.
Man, that's dope.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely good.
Hell yeah. I've definitely
So
really been enjoying the time.
same here. There's two things. One, I realized that in terms of chronology, we got started talking about kind of closer to present day, right? About your story, and I said we'll come back to this. I want to hear about that, all this stuff. So present day, you're writing all this series, married, have a daughter, fantastic.
Yeah.
What has the journey? What has the journey taught you? If you could sum it up into 3 words.
Sum it up to 3 words.
Yeah.
Um, Sure. Suppose it's always now. That'd be the best way I could sum it up in 3 words. Because I mean, every time the journey seems like it's at its end, I mean, it's just another chapter that's opened up in a sense.
So I want to make sure I understood. What were the words?
It's always now.
It's always now. Huh.
Almost feel like Osho saying that. But no, I mean, I really get what he meant with that. Because I mean, every time I felt like my journey was like, I could write my autobiography from birth to now, or from that now to now, or from that now to now, or fuck, those are all just chapters. And then it's like, well, I must have reached the end now. I'm married, I've got a kid, and pretty much my whole life seems like it's just from this moment forth, it's like that happily ever after stage. But then even now, it's like, I mean, I might be midway through the journey. Like, I don't even know. Like, I'm not rich, I'm not successful, so I mean, if that ever came, I might even say that's like the end journey of it all. But then even then, it's like, well, surely that might be a whole nother beginning of its own. Because I mean, if I reach fame and success and stuff, then it's like, what am I going to do with it? That might be a story of its own. And then getting through all that, I mean, it's always now. Like, this is the central moment that our whole lives have built up to. And from this moment forwards, we have an infinite series of possibilities. We can go up, down, left, right. We can go anywhere from here. This is the central moment of your life. And it's always now. Like, it's not yesterday. Yesterday already happened. You can't change it. It's not tomorrow because tomorrow hasn't happened yet. But right now, I could kill myself. And then that's the end. I could go out tomorrow and I could get a new job and it's better than what I expected. I could go out tomorrow and become a best-selling author. I could go out tomorrow and then find out Amazon just decided to unpublish all my books because I breached the terms of service. Like, anything can happen from this moment forwards. So it's always now, I feel like.
Yeah, it is. That's really good.
Oh, thank you.
That was totally unexpected.
Yeah, it took me a
Usually,
minute to think because I was like, you want me to sum it up to 3 words, and it's like, fuck. The only 3 word phrase that I can think of right now is "I love you," but I only say that to my wife, and that has no pertinence to this conversation. I need a different 3 word phrase.
yeah.
And it's like, I mean, it's always
No.
now. I mean, Osho said, "Here is now," and I mean, I'm not Osho, so I'm not going to plagiarize him. But I feel like it's always now. Like, he was not wrong. I mean, he was also fundamental in my philosophy as well. Uh,
Oh, okay. I don't think I'm familiar with the name.
Osho, he was the Indian, I think it was Rajneesh. He's like a New Age Indian god man. Like, I think he died within the last 2 decades. I don't remember when he died. I just know he died within the last 2 decades. So he's not like Muhammad or an ancient prophet, but he's definitely modern. Like, he was big in the 60s. Like the cultural American Revolution, he was big on that, like talking about like it was kind of like the philosophies of the art of not thinking, but he was a bit crazy with it, like sexual orgies and all that type of stuff, like drugs, everything. And I mean, his movement itself, it was pretty much along the lines of the art of not thinking. It's like life is an infinite possibility, like vibing with your fellow people, like just like I mean, it was really like a lot like the art of not thinking, honestly. Like just to a more extreme degree.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like for me personally, like the art of not thinking touches on some of those subjects, but my own personal outlook on it, where it's like if you want to do drugs, no one can stop you. I mean, just do drugs. Like, who gives a shit if it makes you miserable, if it puts you into a bad situation, then just quit. Like, if you're addicted, then get over it. And it's easier said than done. But then at the same time, if you don't do it, then don't think about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. And if you don't like what you're doing, then stop doing it. And if you come up with an excuse, that's a thought. Like, oh, well, if I quit using heroin right now, you can say that all you want, but I'm going to get sick. I'm going to go into withdrawal. I might die. Well, do you want to keep doing heroin? No. My friends die. Like, my family hates me. Like, I'm living on the streets. I'm bummed. I can't get a job. So then quit. Well, I can't suffer through the withdrawal. Well, then you've got a thought. You're afraid of the withdrawal. You can't handle it. If you suck it up and deal with it, that's the only way you're going to get through it. Like, it sucks. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that it's something that anyone can do. But I'm saying if you want to do it, then you have to do it and you have to accept the consequences involved. If you want to cheat on your wife, then do it. No one's going to stop you. If your wife finds out, I mean, that's going to lead to consequences. But then if you don't give a shit about her enough to not cheat on her, why would you give a shit about whatever consequences? Because the main consequence is going to be she leaves you. And if you didn't give a shit about her like that, then what bother? Like, just cheat on her. Fuck it. But better yet, divorce her, leave her, and then go with this person that you want instead. And if you don't want that person like that, then why do you want to cheat on your wife to begin with? Like, I mean, you don't want to be with this person. Why don't you want to be with your wife? Like, all these types of things. I mean, it's like kid smokes weed in front of you. You don't like that kid smoking weed. You don't even own that kid. And even if that's your child, you got no control over it. So why give a shit? And if you do have control over it, then fucking put whatever control you can into it. And then when your kid doesn't want to talk to you 10 years from now because you wouldn't let them smoke weed with their friends when they thought it was cool, well, that's the consequence. And I mean, there's all types of consequences in life, and it's just which ones do we allow to affect us, and which ones do we put the fear and the that dedication into and shit. Like, I mean, I smoked weed my whole life growing up, like from fucking middle school up to now. Well, I say now, but I quit smoking weed 3 years ago now. And all my mates, it's like, oh my god, you quit smoking weed. How did you do it? Well, the last time I smoked was right before I got on the plane to the Philippines, and here it's illegal. I could have said, well, I'm going to do it anyways, but I don't want my daughter to be a part of that. The people I have to get weed from, I don't want around my family. Getting weed is illegal and it's difficult. I don't want to go through all that, so I just quit. Like, it's easier. I could have kept smoking. My wife didn't tell me I had to quit. She didn't give a fuck either way. But I wanted to quit for our daughter. I don't want my daughter growing up thinking it's a cool thing to do, so I don't do it. And at the same time, I don't want her smoking cigarettes, but I'm not quitting that. I'm not quitting that. Like, I still do it. It's just I don't do it in front of her. Obviously, I'm on the back porch now. I don't smoke in the house. I don't smoke around her. I don't let her think it's cool. At one point, she was taking like candy sticks and putting them in her mouth, French fries and stuff, putting it in her mouth, and she was going. And I was like, oh fuck no, no, that's not
Yeah.
cool. So I told her my bag of tobacco because I roll my own cigarettes. I told her, you see this? This has demons in it, demons and monsters, and if you, Daddy smokes this to keep you safe. Terrible, but I don't want to think it's
Wow.
cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I mean, so it's like anything you want to do, you can do it, and I mean, there's consequences to all of it, so you just have to accept that. And I mean, if you don't want to do something, then you just have to accept everything that's involved with it. And it's pretty much the thing. It's like your whole life is an option. Like, it's just which options do you choose?
Yeah. It's like
I mean,
You
even
basically just have like a board of all your consequences.
yeah, I mean, and it's like I hated pickles growing up when I was a kid, and when they would put pickles on my cheeseburger when I would ask for it plain, I just wouldn't eat it. I'd throw it away. Like if they don't refund me, if they don't remake it, I'm just gonna throw it in the trash. And then one day, I had social anxiety, so I didn't want to ask them to make me a new burger because I was by myself. I wasn't with my parents where I could hide behind my mum. Like, Mum, they put pickles in my burger. Tell them to like take them off and make me a new one. Okay. No, I had to do it myself. I was too socially anxious, so I sucked it up and I ate it. And came to find out I actually like pickles. But if I didn't like pickles, I would have been eating the burger I didn't want to eat because I didn't want to deal with the social anxiety of having to make them make me a new one. I was hungry. I didn't want to wait. And if I didn't want to wait, I didn't want them to make me a new one. I didn't want the pickles. Then I'd just be stuck with my own thoughts and that cheeseburger that's going to go to waste. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you got to make a choice. You got to do something. Even if you do nothing, that's still a choice to do something. Oh.
Uh, I was the same way with burgers. I remember
Facts.
my order at McDonald's was, well, I they used to, yeah, you get pickles. I'm like, ugh. It's just a very intense thing. So I kind of like shunned the intensity. Same thing with the onions. I was like so much at once. So I
Oh,
no pickle,
absolutely.
no
So
onion.
much flavor.
That was my. But then after some time, I think I had it at a place that I like really liked, and there was a pickle there. I was like, my mom was like, "Do you like pickles?" It's like it had been a while. I was like, I don't know. So I tried it. I was like, it's not too bad. Then the next time I had it on my burger, I was like, damn, this is actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, cause yeah, it's like you said. Like, I mean, it's like it's a very intense thing that they put into that sandwich, and then fucking the intensity. It just I can understand why people always say they don't like pickles because I mean, it's very off-putting when you're like expecting like this. It's not bland. It's just on a scale of 1 to 10. I feel like a burger on its own has like a flavor intensity of like a 5 or a 3 to 5, depending on like how
Yeah.
much you have of flavors. You throw that pickle on there, it's like a 7 to a 10, and it's like, fuck, I taste pickles, I taste it. And then you throw onions into that, yeah, that's 7 to 10, man. Like, I can taste the onions and I can taste the pickle, and they intermingle with the burger in this way where it's like it doesn't taste like I'm eating a cheeseburger. It tastes like I'm eating something like full of flavor and juice. But then
So,
once you get over it, then it's like, fuck, that's nothing compared to cayenne peppers.
ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Like I love those
Man,
memes. I love the memes on Facebook where they say that white people can't handle flavor, and then it's like a woman where it's like, "Oh my God, what did you put on this chicken?" It's water. I was washing it off. Because I get it. Like white people, they seem like they can't handle flavor like that to a degree. But then I mean, at the same time, there's plenty of white people that can. But I mean, yeah, it's like you look at a pickle and people want to say like, "Oh, I can't eat pickles. They're too flavorful. They're too spicy." Then you throw them something like chicken adobo, and it's like, man, it's got a lot of spice in it. If you think a pickle is spicy, like it's full of flavor. I don't know if you can handle that. No, I'll try it.
hmm
Yeah, like I wouldn't be able to make it here if I couldn't handle pickles. I wouldn't make it here.
in the Philippines.
Yeah, I mean no, because everything here, it's like I ate plain white rice one time. My wife was flabbergasted because like I didn't eat it with anything. It's just we had leftover rice in the rice cooker, so I took out the rice and I was like, you know what? I'm hungry, but I'm not hungry enough to make something. I'm just gonna eat this plain rice. So I did, and she came out the next morning and she's like, babe, what did you do with the rice? Oh, I ate it. What did you eat it with? No, I just ate the rice. With what? With with rice, like in a bowl with the spoon and fork. Yeah, I mean, I just had the white rice. You didn't put anything on it? No. Babe, we got sardines, we got tuna, we got like viand, all this stuff, and you didn't eat it with anything? No, I mean, I used to eat white rice with my parents, like just butter on it, and she was disgusted when I said put butter on white rice. She's like, what the fuck? It's like, well, I mean, yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, it's not the best. It's not the best meal I've ever had, but I mean, it's not bad. Like, I mean, it made me full. That's all I was trying to do. I could have grabbed a bag of chips, but I was just like, no, why would I do that when we got rice? I was going to use that rice for tinola. Uh, uh, well, if I had known that, I would have the tinola. But yeah, so no, I mean, it's like if I had plain, I mean, it's like eating a butter sandwich here. Like if you eat a butter sandwich here, and that's your idea of a meal, you're just not gonna make it. Like they've got lumpia, they've got fucking fried quail eggs. You can get, and you don't eat the fried quail eggs plain. You get them with the sweet sauce, or you get them with vinegar sauce. I mean, and that's what I mean. Like people that can't handle flavors, like, do you think pickles is too much? I mean, you might not make it in the Philippines. Like, as soon as they give you that vinegar sauce to go with your quail eggs, and you're like, no, I don't like vinegar. It's too much. You're not gonna make it. People are gonna look at you funny. Like, it's
There's
odd.
not much you're gonna eat. More than plain white rice.
Yeah, yeah,
Can't eat
exactly. I mean, I still eat plain white rice, but if I'm eating plain white rice, I'm eating it at Jollibee's. I've got the gravy, I've got the chicken, and what you do here is you take a bite of the chicken, you take a sip of your gravy, and you take a little clump of white rice and you eat that all together and you just let it swish in your mouth. But if you just eat the plain white rice thinking, oh yeah, this is a side, I'll just eat it by itself like it's French fries. No, what the fuck are you doing? You're doing it wrong. No, sorry.
that. That's amazing.
Yeah, I love it here, man. I mean, it's funny. Like everybody here is really friendly. Like joking. I mean, the food's great. I mean, it's just really great environment. Like Philippines is definitely the best country I've ever lived in. Even though I've only
Wow.
been to like a few.
Hey, I mean, I've only lived in a couple myself, but it's it's interesting how happy and how kind people are.
Oh, definitely. I mean,
They're
there's kind people in the whole world. Like, I was just talking to one guy that's visiting Scotland, and I was like, saying, like, yeah, the Philippines is nice too, because he was saying he wanted to come here, and I was like, yeah, I mean, people here, when I first got here, there's people offering me beers and shots on the side of the road, just like, hey, come here, have a shot with us, have a beer with us. And then as soon as I said that, I was like, wait, I mean, it's the same thing in Scotland. Like, I mean, if you're a Yank visiting Scotland, it's like, hey, it's an American, come here, have a pint with us. This is an international thing. It's just the Philippines. I mean, people are a whole lot friendlier. Like I feel like it's like to a greater degree. Like the whole world is a nice place, but Philippines, it's like 9 out of 10 people you meet are really fucking friendly, and that 1 out of 10 is like just regular friendly. Whereas the rest of the world's like, I feel like it's like maybe like 3 to 5 out of 10 are really friendly, and then 5 out of 10 are like, fuck off.
I could see that. I could see that.
And then I suppose, to be fair, then you got the 1 out of 100 that's just a complete fucking asshole, and that's everywhere in the world. But then
Yeah.
every country you go to, that 1 out of 100, they're a different kind of asshole than the other countries, and then that is the negative stereotype that country gets. Like in America, you've got a couple different races intermingling, so then you got that 1 out of 100 black people that's really shitty, and they're the ghetto one that's gonna rob you and put a gun to your head and shit, and then you got that 1 out of 100 white person that's a complete fucking bigot and a racist, and he's gonna say xenophobic, racist shit at you, and then you got that 1 out of 100 Asian people that's just really strict and mean and like very aggressive. But I mean, like in the Philippines, here you got that 1 out of 100 would be a scammer. Like, yeah, you might get scammed by that 1 out of 100 bad people. Like, but I mean, like I said, it's 1 out of 100. Like everybody in general is like a good person in the world, and then you got that little minute percentage, and they're the ones that get a country a negative stereotype, like, oh, Americans are fat and ignorant. No, I mean that's because you see the bad one, and that's the thing that you decide to take from the country. You don't look at all the friendly, nice, outgoing people. You look at the one that pissed you off, and then, oh, this is what the whole people is like. This is what that whole race is like. This is what that whole nation is like. And it's like, it's a small percentage.
Yeah. And negativity is,
Oh, what's that?
negativity often takes the cake, kind of like it's
Yeah,
what people flock to.
yeah, this is something that I state in the art of not thinking is you're more likely to focus on the negative of something than the good of it, and that's why like when I was saying at closer to the beginning of this podcast when I was talking about like the bad things in my life, there was good to them as well. I just didn't see it at the time. I mean, that's in life. Like I mean, everybody flocks to the negativity because it's easier to see because you feel it more intensely. Like if I go to a fucking amusement park and I'm riding the rides with my wife and my daughter and somebody cuts us in line, it's like, yeah, those fucking assholes in that line on the fucking the roller coaster, they fucking cut us. Like we had to wait a whole extra hour for that fucking shit. But was the whole day bad? No, I mean that was the one bad moment. You're just going to be pissed off about that, so you don't enjoy the next three rides because you're so busy focused on that one. It's like, yeah, it was an okay day. Like we got cut in line. I mean, we did all the typical stuff that we expected, but then that unexpected thing happened, and it just really threw everything off because it wasn't expected. Yeah, because you went there having this expectation of the outcome, and when it matched that, it's like, okay, well that's what I expected, so it's fine. But then when that thing comes along that you didn't expect, it's like, well, I didn't expect that, so I don't like that at all, and I'm going to focus on that because it shouldn't have happened. Well, I mean, that's life. Like, your job is good, but then you don't like your boss because he's uh, I don't know, let's say your boss calls you a dickhead every day you go to work. It's like, you don't like that, but because that's so unexpected and it's not something that you were willing to accept, you focus on that more than the fact that you're making double what you made at your last job. You focus on that more than the fact that you got more free time, that you got 2 days off instead of one day off. Because that, you weren't expecting that, you didn't want that, so that's the thing that takes the cake in that sense.
Mm. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I mean, it's like when my daughter's good, like, okay, well, that's what's expected of you. I mean, because this is what my parents told me too. It's like, I did the chores for the day, I went to school, come home, did my homework and everything. Well, that's expected of you, but you also said fuck when you stubbed your toe on the table. That's why you're grounded. Well, I didn't get a reward for any of the good shit I did because it's expected of you. But then the bad thing I did, I'm in trouble for that. Like, why isn't that overlooked? Because I mean, it's a typical thing. Like that's one out of 100 things I did today that was bad. What about the other 99? It's expected. So it's expected, so you don't pay attention to it because it doesn't matter because it's how it was supposed to be. But then the thing that's not how it was supposed to be is the thing that you focus on because it shouldn't have happened. But that's life. Things happen.
mm, that.
And I mean, and that's true in everything. Like I mean, it's like with my relationship with my wife. Like a couple times we've had arguments and stuff and have bad days together. But I mean, we never think about divorcing each other over it. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's like everybody has their ups and downs. There's always a bad moment. And I mean, it's about how you respond to the bad moment that matters. Like, okay, maybe I forgot to do the laundry today and you got mad at me. Like, I could be mad that you got mad that I forgot because I was too busy focused on something else. Or you could get mad at me because I'm always forgetting to do the laundry and shit. But then in the bigger picture, it's like, it's not even worth it. Like, who gives a fuck? Just don't do it again. Okay, I won't do it again. Problem solved. Like people also tend to forget that as well because it's like they want to stay mad about something that happened that was completely irrelevant and then end up making the matter 10 times worse than it had to be.
Too true.
Yeah, like let's say I forget the laundry and then my wife tells me, "You're such a stupid piece of shit, like you never do anything around this house." Well, I don't want to take out the trash now and I don't want to do the dishes anymore. I'm just gonna neglect you because you made me feel like I don't do anything ever. And then well, now you don't do anything, so you're a complete useless piece of shit. Why do I even be with you? And then it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Or you could just realize I was mad at that moment. I don't have to be mad. I fucked up, so I shouldn't fuck up again. And I mean, she's already over it. Like she's watching TV. Like it wasn't even a big deal. And I've seen relationships fall apart like that because the people they can't realize that. Like they'll let a fight turn into like um, a boundary crossing moment. Like you take this fight and you cheat on your spouse because of it, or you take this fight and you say something that can't easily be forgiven. Like, you know what? That's why you don't get to see your kid. Oh, hell no, you're not bringing my, like, fucking custody battle into this. That's fucked up. You're not my friend anymore. Like, all over a stupid issue.
Huh.
Not that that's happened to
It's
me, like, I'm
interesting.
just saying that as examples. Like, I don't have a custody
No, no,
battle ongoing, and I've not lost friends like that, but
gotcha, gotcha.
yeah. But I mean, it's definitely things that happen. Like, I mean, people say stupid shit. I mean, like, I saw one video of a woman that said, like, that's why I cheated on you, and then she didn't even cheat, she just said it out of spite, and it's like, well, your whole relationship fell apart because you said that, like,
Yeah, that's something that I'm really keenly interested in. It's like the it's funny how obvious beforehand, how obvious the choice is not to do that. But then when you get wrapped up in the cycle, how like internally it seems obvious to actually keep destroying it. It's a big problem.
yeah. And then, I mean, at the same time, then you got people where it's like, they'll have a series of bad events, and then they'll turn that into, like, their life story, where it's like, my ex cheated on me. I got cheated on before that. Every girl I've ever been with has cheated on me, so I don't trust women. And then they'll turn that into their narrative, and then it's like, you're not realizing that because your first ex cheated on you, you were too controlling with your second, so she got sick of it and then cheated on you. And then the third one, you kept accusing her of it, pushing her to the point that she didn't want to be with you anymore. And then because of these three, now you got this whole perception of it where it's like you're just a perpetual victim of it, and then just put yourself in that situation, and then at the same time, then it's like I can't find a woman because no one's like ever like genuine and this, that, and the other, and it's like, I mean, you put yourself in that situation because you make it your life, you make it your story, just like you can't find a job because no job will take you on because you don't have the skills, and then so you go into these interviews lacking confidence that they can clearly see, and then you don't get the jobs. It further perpetuates it. When you finally do get a bottom job that they're just desperate to fill the position, you take it on, overwork yourself to overcompensate for your perceived lack of skill, and then they take advantage of it because it's like this guy will do anything to keep his job, so we'll just give him all the work, and then all of a sudden you can't handle it, so you quit, and then you just think that jobs are a scam and it's not even worth it to work, and then you can't get a good job. All the bad jobs always take advantage of you because you always go into it with this mentality, and then it's like you could easily turn your life around. It's just you have to change your way of thinking. Like before, I always used to be a yes man, but then I realized, like, especially after I worked at Fish, it's like I don't have to always say yes. And then I realized, like, fuck, it's a whole lot easier having a job than I thought it was. Like I mentioned before about take a week off before you start a job, jokingly, but I mean at the same time, that's advice I wish I had known because when I quit my job at Fish, I had another job lined up. They asked me when I could start, and I told them, like, look, you mind if I start a week from now just to get my shit together? And they're like, yeah, feel free. And it's like, fuck, I don't even have to get anything together. I just didn't want to start right now because I just quit my job. Like, and they told me, fine, yeah, okay. Every single time I thought, I have to start right now or they're going to hire someone else. No, that's not always the case. And at the same time, hey, can you work overtime today? Personally, no, I'm actually busy. Am I busy with anything? No, I don't want to work overtime. I work overtime every day of my life. Like, I always feel like I'm obligated to. And then, wow,
Mm.
I don't have to work overtime. They'll just ask somebody else. Like, that's so convenient. Like, I don't have to clean the toilets. They just always told me to because I always said yes. And I was always so afraid to lose my job if I ever said something that they didn't like that I just gave up myself all for minimum wage. And then it's like, I don't even have to do that. A lot of people have that mentality. Like, I've had friends where they told me, like, no, I can't. I got to start my new job, like, tomorrow. Like, I finally got one. It's like, that's good. But I mean, If I'm about telling them maybe like wait like a couple days to start, no, I gotta start right now. Okay? I mean, to be fair, like I mean, some jobs, yeah, they'll say, well, no, we need someone to start right now, but I mean that's not always the case. I mean, sometimes yeah, a job will terminate you because you don't want to do two people's jobs, but I mean at the same time, I mean that's not always the case either. It's all very it's very fluid, like, and that goes back to relationships. Yeah, maybe two girls cheated on you, but the third girl, I mean, it's a totally new situation. You don't know how it's going to be. Like, there's no way of knowing how life is until it happens, and it's not always the same option. Even the same option has different outcomes depending on how you react to it. Like, the only thing that's consistent, I'd say, is probably like when you buy a bottle of juice. Like, buy a 2 liter of Mountain Dew, it's going to be a 2 liter of Mountain Dew the next time and a 2 liter bottle the next time. But then, even if you date your ex, even if you get a job at the job that you used to have, it's going to be a different outcome this time. Like, it's not the same as when you left. Like, this time they might terminate you after a week because they realize, like, you know what? I don't like you. Like, I thought that I could handle you, but I can't. Even if you do the exact same shit, it's like, no, I tolerated that last time. I'm not going to tolerate that this time. And then likewise in reverse, like, hey, can you clean the toilets before you leave work today? No, I've got places to be and things to do. Like, I really can't. Well, you used to do it. Yeah, that was before my schedule changed. Like, now I've got things going on outside of work that I can't. Oh, well, it's different now. It's always different. Like, the only thing that remains the same is the bottle of juice. Because, I mean, even if you say a bag of chips, this bag of chips might have 37 chips in it. This bag might have 38. This one might have 32. You don't know how many chips are going to be in your bag, but you can guarantee that the juice in your bottle probably going to be the exact same amount as the last time.
That's true. I've never had a like a short bottle of a short two liter or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, because you get chips, I mean, they come in different sizes and shapes, so I mean, they can't give you the exact same bag every time, but like the machine that pours out your soda, I mean, it's got that measurement. Like once it hits the liter, like let's say it's got 30 seconds of pouring, and that's how long it takes to fill the bottle. It always fills at 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. Like maybe you'll find one bottle that's like different, and it's like, oh well, we had to switch out the machine, so this one's like a little bit fuller because we couldn't get the precise measurement. Like maybe, but most likely not.
Wow, this is giving me a lot of food for thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's like even when you read a book, like I mean, Christians always talk about the Bible being a book that you can read 100 times and you get 100 different meanings from it. But then, I mean, same thing with Lord of the Rings. You read the Lord of the Rings twice, you see things you didn't see the first time, or Narnia, or fucking Tom Clancy books, any kind of book. Like you're looking at it with a different perspective, so you're focusing on different things. And then if you focus on the exact same thing every single time, then yeah, it's going to be boring and it's going to be repetitive and dynamic between you and someone else or you and something else, yeah, it's gonna feel like it's gonna be the same way. But then as soon as something happens that was unexpected, then it's like, well, fuck, I wasn't expecting that. Well, yeah, because I mean it's different. Like you can't go into the same thing every single time. Like you go to 100 wars, you still might get shot in the head by a random sniper. You don't know. Like you can't just walk in like, well, I did this once before, so it'll work again. Well, I put this bed together wrong one time. I didn't screw it all the way in. Like, it's not like you have to screw the screws all the way in every single time. Well, yeah, that works until you got someone really overweight that bought that bed and you installed it for them, and the screws that worked every single time for couples that were like 120 kilos altogether. Turns out it can't sustain someone that's 250 kilos. So there goes your same thing every single time mentality. Where it's like, oh, I smoke cigarettes every day, so I mean, I don't gotta worry about it. I already know it's gonna happen. I'm just gonna cough a little bit. Wow, one day I got lung cancer because guess what? Over time, things change.
Hmm.
Saying
That's a
that,
lot to
I
think
don't get cancer.
about.
But yeah,
I appreciate that, man.
yeah,
Kelson,
that's
if there's one thing that you would want people to know, something that you're working on, or something that you think is important to promote, what would that be?
Probably go with the art of not thinking, because anything that I could think of in this world that could help it, I feel like that book would do a better job telling than I could.
And where can they find The Art of Not Thinking?
It's available on Amazon, Kindle, and Google Play.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'll include a link to that as well
Oh,
in
hell
the
yeah.
description.
Yeah, and then if they look up my name, they can see all the list of works because they should show up on Google.
Gotcha.
Hell yeah. It's been a
Well,
pleasure.
I appreciate that, and definitely I want to take a look at the book myself because it's even just this conversation.
That's all, man. I
Enlightening.
really hope you enjoy it, Tristan.
Can't wait for it, Kelson. We'll be in touch, and thank you so much for your time and your insight today.
Definitely, brother. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. I'll catch you next time.
Definitely, man.